Robert F. Kennedy Jr., who is challenging Joe Biden for the Democratic presidential nomination, is very useful to right-wing media and to Trump supporters and to right-wingers in general. In fact, Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has been interviewed more on Fox News than the other Republican challengers to Donald Trump. And it's because he serves a number of different purposes, including to appear to generate the feeling that there is more discontent with Biden from within the Democratic Party than there actually is. There is discontent with Joe Biden from within the Democratic Party, but it is not nearly as significant as Fox News would want you to believe by virtue of propping up Robert F. Kennedy Jr. A number of other interesting reasons we've previously discussed why RFK Jr. is interesting to many in right-wing media. Well, Fox News propagandist Sean Hannity gave Kennedy an hour town hall last night, and it is really worth watching because it is a combination of backpedaling, lying, and distorting to such a degree that it almost makes Sean Hannity seem like the voice of reason. When Hannity seems like the sober voice of reason, you know things are getting a little weird. Here is Bobby Kennedy Jr. attempting to backtrack from when he said Jews and Asians don't get COVID as badly as whites and blacks, and that it was targeted and but. What he has kind of backed up and backpedaled to is saying, I never meant to suggest it was designed that way. It just is that way. Of course, we looked at the clip. We know that that's exactly what he was suggesting. But here is Bobby Kennedy Jr. last night on Fox saying, no, that's never what I meant to suggest.
This is and I was describing a 2021 study that was funded by NIH, that was performed by a half a dozen at least scientists, the three lead scientists from Cleveland Clinic.
Okay, now on this, remember, you all know already that this is BS because we talked about it. The study he referenced the next day to try to get out of trouble, if you actually read the study, it says that these differences are so minute that they are not only not statistically significant, but they don't suggest anyone should do anything different in terms of assessing their risk tolerance based on genetic makeup. It's in that study. So even this is already BS, but let's continue.
And that study showed that the docking site for on the furin cleave of the COVID virus was particularly compatible with certain races. And it doesn't mean that those races disproportionately died, but chiefly with people of African descent, right, next of Caucasians, least of all people from Finland, and people and certain Germanic races.
Oh boy.
And ethnic Chinese were also the least or less.
This is a mess. This is a mess.
Acceptable and Ashkenazi Jews. All right. There was no suggestion ever that somebody designed it to be that way, that it was designed to preserve certain races. I was not suggesting that.
Right. Now, that's actually exactly what he suggested. He then backpedaled and said, that's not what I meant to do. But that is exactly what he suggested. And that explanation, and if that explanation seems logical to you, I've got a bridge to sell you, quite frankly. Then the topic of Ukraine and Russia came up. And again, on this one, Hannity having to try to help Bobby Kennedy Jr. not say ridiculous things. Bobby Kennedy Jr. says, we pushed the Ukraine into the war. This guy's being taken seriously by some, and he's still using the antiquated term, the Ukraine. And Hannity tries to help him, but he just can't.
Use language art, and you use the design of agreements.
So Ukraine, to appease Putin, who I think is evil, they've already given up Crimea. It was annexed. So what, now they have to give up the Donbass area?
The Ukraine, because of our pushing the Ukraine into the war on two occasions.
We pushed them into it, or Putin?
Well, let me tell you. Let me answer your question. Yeah. In 2019, France, Germany, and Russia all agreed to the Minsk Accords. That year, Zelensky ran for president. He was a comedian. He had no political experience. Why did he win? Because he ran on one issue, signing the Minsk Accords. As soon as he got in there, Victoria Nuland and the White House told him he couldn't do it. Putin sends 40,000 troops in. That's not enough to
Crowd's dead, by the way. Crowd has no clue what he's talking about.
conquer the country. Clearly, he wanted us to come to the negotiation. He wanted somebody to come to the negotiating table. Zelensky came to the negotiating table, signed a new agreement that was the Minsk Accords 2 in 2022, and that would have allowed Donbass to stay, and Lugansk to stay, to remain as part of Ukraine. We said, Putin signed it, Zelensky initialed it, and Putin, in good faith, began withdrawing troops from the Ukraine. What happened? We sent Boris Johnson over there to torpedo it, because we don't want peace we want the war with Russia.
So the crowd liking the idea of Biden as the warmonger, right? That's the only part they react to. We want war with Russia. It would be impossible in this segment to unwind all of the dates, names, and places that Bobby Kennedy Jr. gets wrong in that answer, but we will come back to that another day. And then at the end, Hannity asking Bobby Kennedy Jr., why should people vote for you? And his answer is really something else.
We have a minute left in this hour.
Yeah.
And I want to ask you this.
It's gone by so quickly.
You're talking to the American people tonight. Why should they vote for you for president? Tell them in a 1 minute final statement.
I'm running on I think most Americans were at each other's throats today. We have the worst polarization that we've ever had since the American Civil War. It's more dangerous and more toxic.
Yeah, and who's to blame for that? Address that question.
The 60s was a little crazy, too.
The 60s were, when my father ran, it was, there was a lot of division at that time. But it's hard to see how this is ever going to end well. And what I've said is I want to end that polarization, and I want to do that by telling the truth.
Well, the ship has sailed on that, okay? Telling the truth. Telling debunked obvious lies about the connection between vaccines and autism. Telling demonstrable lies about the Russia-Ukraine war. I mean, I could go on. And what's really sad about this is that many of you know, I once had dinner with Bobby Kennedy Jr., and we have a lot of acquaintances and friends in common. He really is an extremely nice, charismatic, articulate, and engaging guy who can talk to most people about just about any topic in a way that really feels genuine. Whether it is or isn't, I don't know, but at least feels genuine. But this stuff is nuts. This stuff is nuts. We've recently learned in the last 24 hours that a lot of the consultants and firms that his campaign has hired are right-wing firms. We know that many right-wingers love the idea of Bobby Kennedy Jr. as a chaos agent to just disrupt Biden's candidacy. At the end of the day, I don't think it's going to make a difference, but it is an extraordinary cautionary tale in the enemy of my enemy is my friend sort of stuff. But even that can end up backfiring. And I think we're starting to see that now. Let me know your thoughts. We'll have these clips on Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and of course on YouTube. We need to teach kids to think critically and independently, and we aren't doing a good enough job of it. I have a book right here that teaches kids critical thinking. I wrote this book, and it's available on Amazon at davidpakman.com/book. This is told through the story of a kid detective. The idea is critical thinking, thinking independently is like solving a mystery. Getting clues, evaluating them, thinking through scenarios. The right knows that when kids think critically, they don't end up being Republicans when they're adults. And that's why they hate teaching kids critical thinking. This book alone won't solve the problem, but it will get kids interested. Get a copy, Kindle, paperback at davidpakman.com/book.